Have you ever wondered if there's a pattern to everything? What if the rhythm of your own heart wasn't just, biological, but was actually cosmic? What if the rise and fall of entire civilizations followed that very same beat? Well, today, we're going to try and decode a universal pattern, a kind of hidden rhythm described in the Qur'an that seems to connect our very own pulse to the pulse of time itself.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This isn't just poetry we're talking about. The source material we're digging into makes this incredible claim, that the Qur'an isn't just a book of nice metaphors, but the literal source code for space-time. It's an algorithm that actually structures reality. I know, it's a huge idea, so let's see exactly how this whole model is built.
So what is this algorithm? Well, at its core, it's a 4-beat divine rhythm. I want you to imagine a cosmic heartbeat, pumping a cycle of life, trial, and mercy, not just through our own souls, but through the very veins of history itself. The idea here is that there's a single, repeating pattern that governs, well, everything.
Okay, so here it is. This is the fundamental rhythm. You can think of it like a closed circulatory system, and it has these 4 distinct phases. First, pressure, then purification, then propagation, and finally, a reset. Let's break down each beat of this cosmic heart.
The very first beat is pressure. Think of this as the moment of intense contraction, like a heart just squeezing shut. It's all about pride and force building up, and it's symbolized perfectly by Pharaoh's famous declaration, "I am your highest lord." The whole system is under maximum stress because a false signal is trying to become the source of the entire pulse.
So, after all that intense pressure comes purification. This phase acts just like a valve in the heart. It's a filter for the entire system, and its job is to preserve only what's coherent with the divine flow. The story of Noah's Ark is used as the ultimate example here. It's a mechanism that separates, it purifies, and it saves the core while washing away all the corruption.
The third beat is propagation. This is the arterial pulse wave, right? It's when that purified signal gets sent out into the world, and it's represented as light and guidance, symbolized here by the Prophet Muhammad being called a luminous lamp. The really crucial insight here is that this light, this guidance, is meant to travel way farther and have a much more lasting impact than that initial, forceful pressure ever.
And the final beat is the reset. This is the moment when all those false structures, the idols of ideology or power, are finally exposed and they just collapse. Abraham's shattering of the idols is the perfect picture of this. It's the moment the heart relaxes, clearing the whole system of blockages and getting it ready for the very next cycle.
Okay, so that's the ideal 4-beat rhythm. But what happens when it goes wrong? Well, the model suggests that, just like any living system, this divine rhythm can get sick. The flow can be disrupted, and that leads to what the source material calls cosmic pathologies.
So the source material points out 2 main ways the system can fail. First, you've got a systemic hijack. You can think of this as spiritual high blood pressure. This is the Pharaoh model, where one false signal takes over the entire system. And then, second, you have a localized blockage, which is more like plaque in a single artery. This represents a specific group, like the people of Thamūd, who deny the truth and just obstruct the flow in one particular area.
But the most dangerous problem identified is something else entirely, a spiritual arrhythmia. As it says here, this isn't just a blockage, it's a phase distortion. The signal gets thrown completely out of sync by this massive pulse of pride, and it disrupts the entire system's natural rhythm. So where does this arrhythmic signal even come from? Well, the source pinpoints it to the primordial declaration of Iblīs, or Satan, "I am better than him." This is presented as the original signal of pride, the very first beat that threw the cosmic harmony totally out of sync. But here's the thing, this isn't a story about permanent failure. The crucial point here is that the system is designed to self-correct. It takes that distorted, prideful signal and it processes it. History itself, with all its cycles of purification and reset, acts like a filter to recalibrate these signals over time, basically transforming them into something new.
And this is a brilliant illustration of that transformation. The arrhythmic pride of Iblīs, his claim of superiority, gets processed and purified through the system. Now, this isn't about one character becoming another, it's about functional purification. That distorted signal emerges, healed and transformed, as the synchronized life-giving pulse of Isa, or Jesus. And notice the absolute key difference: by permission of Allah. The signal is no longer trying to claim sovereignty for itself. It's operating in perfect, humble harmony with the divine source. So, this is a pretty fascinating cosmic model. But you have to wonder, is it just a grand metaphor? Or does this cosmic rhythm have a literal, physical echo right here, inside our own chests? Well, the answer presented is pretty stunning. The source material draws a direct parallel between this cosmic process and the actual biological formation of the human heart. It suggests that both the universe and the heart follow the exact same principle. They aren't created in their final perfect form, but they are folded, tested, and structured into coherence over time. And look at this. This isn't just a concept. This is the actual biological timeline of how a human heart develops. It starts as just a simple linear tube around day 22. Then it loops, and it folds, and it divides into distinct chambers over several weeks. It literally structures itself through a process of trial and formation, a physical process that directly mirrors the cosmic algorithm we just walked through. It's incredible. Okay, so how does this all come together? Let's move to our final section and see how this all builds into one unified vision of reality.
This brings us to the final synthesis, which is just beautiful in its simplicity. The core idea is that these three fundamental processes, the beating of our heart, the unfolding of history, and the recitation of the Qur'an, are not separate things. They're presented as just different expressions, different manifestations of the exact same four-beat divine rhythm.
So what keeps this entire cosmic rhythm steady? The source identifies it with the core Islamic concept of Tawheed, which basically means divine oneness. This oneness is presented as the eternal sinus rhythm of existence. You know, that's the term for the heart's natural steady pacemaker. It is the stable underlying pulse from which all other cycles of history and life begin. It's the baseline of reality. And this all culminates in this one powerful final analogy. If Tawheed is the sinus rhythm, then the Qur'an is God's electrocardiogram. It's the dynamic readout of this living cosmic heart. Each prophet represents a contraction, a systole. Each revelation is like oxygenated blood being pushed through the system, and every single trial is a stress test, checking the health of the heart of belief.
And of course, every cycle has to have an end. This verse is interpreted as the final diastole, that moment of ultimate relaxation for the cosmic heart. It's a time when all the pulses of creation, all the beats of history and of life, finally cease and return to their single eternal source.
So we're left with this incredibly intricate model of a single rhythm connecting the cosmos, our own hearts, and divine revelation. And that really leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. One that turns this entire cosmic framework into a very personal reflection. If this one rhythm truly underpins all of reality, what is the beat of your own life attuning to?